They didn't slam the door shut. They just locked it and left. No warning. No goodbye. Just a note taped to the front, like I was some afterthought in my own life. 2 days after they took off without me, the house caught fire. I wasn't even there. Didn't go inside, didn't touch a thing. But when the police showed up, my stepdad told them I did it. Said I was unstable. And my mom? She didn't say a word to stop him. My parents split up when I was 6. It didn't come with screaming matches or thrown plates. Nothing like that. Just 2 grown-ups quietly calling it quits. I stayed with Mom during the weekdays since her place was closer to school, and I'd go to Dad's on weekends. We had our routines. It worked for a while. But around the time I hit 10, things started shifting. It wasn't obvious at first. It wasn't like she yelled or stormed off. It was more in the small stuff you don't notice right away. She stopped asking about my day. Forgot the names of my friends. My drawings disappeared from the fridge. Little by little, I faded into the background, like static on a TV no one bothers to turn off. Then came Stan. I was 12 when she met him. He was one of those guys who knew how to charm a room. Slick haircut, nice smile, always ready with a story that made him sound important. Depending on who was listening, he either worked in real estate or managed hotels or ran something big. He brought over wine, gushed over Mom's cooking, and treated me like a cute little accessory to his new life. And I tried. I swear I did. Once, he showed up with this fancy mountain bike, top of the line with more gears than I knew what to do with. Said we should go riding sometime. We never did. He'd ruffle my hair and call me big guy, like I was still in kindergarten. I was 13. Stan had 2 boys of his own, Tyler and Liam, 10 and 8. They were quiet, robotic almost. Like little soldiers. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. Every time they spoke. Mom adored them. She didn't come right out and say it, but you could tell. The way her face lit up when Tyler asked for help with his math homework. The way she bragged about Liam being so well-mannered. And with me, it was like I couldn't get anything right. Too loud. Too stubborn. Too me. By the time I hit 14, I was spending more nights at Dad's place. He wasn't flashy or emotional, but he was solid. He didn't make me feel like I had to earn his love. We'd sit on the couch, watching Bulls games in comfortable silence. And somehow, those quiet nights felt warmer than anything I ever got at Mom's. Then Stan popped the question, and Mom said yes. I wasn't shocked. Honestly, my first thought was, well, guess this is the new normal. After they got married, everything that felt like mine started slowly vanishing. My bedroom got swapped out for the smaller one so Tyler and Liam could take over the bigger space. My posters? Gone. My stuff? Packed into boxes and shoved out to the garage. No one asked how I felt about it. No one even checked. One day, I finally asked her straight out, "Do you still even want me here?" She laughed it off, like I was being ridiculous. "Of course. Don't be so dramatic," she said, all breezy. But her eyes? Her eyes told a different story. They didn't say, "I love you." They said, "Don't rock the boat." I started feeling more like a visitor in my own house. The kind of guest you put up with, not someone you actually want around. And yeah, I get it. Some kids go through worse. But there's a special kind of ache that comes from your own mom looking right through you. Like you're just background noise she's learned to tune out. That kind of emptiness sticks. Around that time, Stan started tossing around phrases like streamlining our finances and consolidating everything under one name. He kept talking about how he'd handle it all, make things easier, cleaner. And that's when he first brought up the lake house. It was a Thursday, that part's crystal clear. The rest of the day? That's where things get fuzzy. Not because it wasn't a big deal, but because it hit me so hard. It's like my brain never quite figured out where to store the memory. You ever have one of those moments that feels like it belongs in someone else's story? That's what this felt like. I came home from school expecting the usual routine. Maybe some leftover pasta in the fridge. Maybe Stan pacing around the kitchen with his Bluetooth in, acting way busier than he actually was. Maybe Mom squinting at her laptop, scrolling through emails with that half-distracted look she wore, the one that said, "I'm paying attention, but I'm also drowning a little, so please don't ask me to care right now." But instead, the front door was locked. That was the first sign something was off. We didn't lock the door during the day, ever. It was a safe, quiet neighborhood. The kind where people still left their garage doors wide open and no one thought twice. I figured maybe they ran out real quick. Groceries, dry cleaning, maybe a doctor's appointment. But then I saw the note. Cheap printer paper, taped dead center on the door like some flyer for a missing cat. My name was written in Mom's handwriting, rushed, but unmistakable. Jake. We decided to leave for a spontaneous week at the lake house. Stay safe, Mom. I stared at it for a minute. Then I read it again. At first, I honestly thought I'd missed something. Like maybe there was a second note I didn't see, one that actually explained what was going on. Maybe it was some kind of weird joke. A prank. I checked under the doormat, opened the mailbox, scanned the porch, half expecting a hidden camera crew to jump out and yell, "Gotcha!" Like I was suddenly the star of some low-budget reality show. But no, that was all there was. Just that single sheet of paper taped to the door. No text, no voicemail, no casual, "Hey, sweetheart, just so you know." Nothing. They were just gone. I pulled out my phone and tried calling. Straight to voicemail. Tried again. Still nothing. I must have hit redial a dozen times. I actually kept count, like some obsessive maniac who believed that if I just called enough, the universe would hit undo. But it didn't. No response. No sign of life. I stood there for a while, probably 10, maybe 15 minutes, just frozen. Not crying. Not yelling. Just standing. Like my body couldn't catch up to what my brain was trying to process. Eventually, I punched in the garage code just to be sure. The car was gone. Both of them were. Stan's sedan, the one he babied like it was a Porsche, and the SUV Mom always referred to as her baby, even though Stan was the one making the payments now. That's when it clicked. This wasn't an oversight. They didn't forget me. They chose to leave without me. I wasn't a mistake. I was intentionally left behind. And I couldn't bring myself to go inside after that. Maybe it's because it didn't feel like my home anymore. Maybe I just couldn't handle the idea of walking into a space that had made room for everyone else, but somehow didn't have a place for me. So I turned around, walked down the street like I had somewhere to be, caught the bus, got off at the train station. I called Dad. He didn't answer right away, just rang and went to voicemail. But 2 minutes later, he called back. "You all right?" he asked. I didn't know how to respond. I think I mumbled something like, "Can I stay for a few days?" And then suddenly I was on the train, riding across the city. Next thing I knew, I was in the elevator of his building, and then standing at his apartment door. That loft with the brick walls, and that weird old smell that somehow always reminded me of the 90s. He opened the door, looked me over, and said, "You're always welcome here." That was it. No interrogation. No pity hug. Just those words. That night, he ordered pizza, same place we used to go to when I was a kid. He still remembered I liked plain cheese with garlic crust. We sat on the couch. The Bulls game was on, but muted, and I just stared at the wall for a long time, holding a slice of pizza I never even took a bite from. Eventually, Dad asked, "You want to tell me what's going on?" I just shook my head. He didn't press me, just sat there. But after a while, something inside cracked open, and once the words started coming, I couldn't shut them off. I told him about the note taped to the door, the house being locked up like I was some outsider, how I tried calling, over and over, and nobody picked up, how I stood there alone while they were probably up at the lake house, eating steaks, roasting marshmallows, playing board games like nothing was wrong. But then I stopped just telling him what happened. I started telling him how it felt. I told him I didn't feel like I belonged anywhere anymore, like I'd turned into some long-term guest overstaying his welcome. How Stan always made me feel like I was in the way. How Mom used to light up when I walked in the room, and now barely even glanced up from her screen. Told him how Tyler and Liam barely talked to me. How everything changed the moment Stan moved in. And how Mom didn't fight it. She just let it all happen. "She doesn't even ask how my day was," I said, staring at the crust in my hand. "Not once. She just assumes I'm okay, unless Stan says something bad about me. Then suddenly I'm the issue." Dad didn't say much. He just sat there and listened. So I kept going. She redid the whole living room after he moved in. New couches, new curtains. My school photos. Boxed up. There's a picture of Tyler on the piano now, and that's not even his damn piano. I let out a laugh, but it came out sharp, bitter. "And now this," I said. "They just leave me behind like it's nothing. Like it's normal. Like I'm not even one of them anymore." Dad nodded slowly. "That's not okay." "No," I said, my voice cutting a little harder than I meant. "It's not, and I'm done pretending like it is." There was a beat of silence. Then Dad leaned back in his chair and let out a long breath. "You want to stay here for a bit? More than just a few nights?" I nodded. "Yeah, I do." "All right," he said. We'll figure it out. And man, I wish that was where this story ended. Me, finally speaking the truth out loud. Dad, stepping up quietly like he always had. But life doesn't work like that. It doesn't tie things up neatly. 2 days. That's how long the peace lasted before everything flipped upside down. When I left Mom's house that Thursday, after finding the note, after those 12 unanswered calls, I didn't even step inside. Didn't touch the doorknob. Didn't cross the threshold. I stood there, stared at the paper one last time, let the weight of it hit me, and then I walked away. I went to Dad's like I'd done 100 times before. Only this time, it wasn't a weekend visit. This time, it was supposed to be different. Safe. A chance to breathe. But then Sunday came. I was in the kitchen, digging through the cabinet for cereal, when Dad's phone rang. He stepped out into the hallway to answer. Nothing out of the ordinary, until I heard it. His voice dipped low. Tense. Careful. When he came back into the room, he looked off. Pale, distant. Like whatever he'd just heard had knocked the air out of him. Jake, he said, his voice steady but too quiet. We need to talk. And just like that, my stomach turned to stone. There was a fire, Dad said, his voice steady but a little softer than usual. At your mom's place. Late last night. I just stared at him. Tried to say something, but nothing came out. My mouth was dry. My throat felt like sandpaper. No one got hurt, he added quickly. But the damage, it's pretty serious. I gave a slow nod. That house. The one with the crooked stair railing, the kitchen tiles that squeaked just right, the living room where my early doodles used to hang, had gone up in flames. And then there was a knock at the door. 2 police officers. Not aggressive, not rude, just that polite, overly calm kind that somehow makes everything feel worse. Like they already know something, and they're waiting for you to admit it. They asked me where I'd been Friday night. Here, I said. With my dad. Anyone who can verify that? Yeah, we were here all night. One of them jotted something down. Then, did you return to your mother's house at any point after Thursday afternoon? No, I said. Didn't even go inside on Thursday. Saw the note on the door and left. That's it. They both nodded. But I could feel it. Something shifted in the room, in the air. Then one of them said it. We received a statement indicating there was some tension between you and your stepfather. That you were upset about not being included in the trip. That you may have made threats. What? I blinked, stunned. No, that's not. Wait, who told you that? They didn't answer. Just thanked me for my time and said they'd reach out if they needed anything else. As soon as the door shut, Dad let out a long breath. The kind that sounded like it had been stuck in his chest all day. I turned to him. Let me guess. Stan. He didn't say a word. He didn't have to. Later that night, Dad made a call to an old buddy of his from his city planning days, someone who had connections in the fire department, just to see what was going on behind the scenes. And yeah, it was Stan. He told the cops I'd been angry, said I felt left out, that I'd stormed off in a rage, claimed I had a history of emotional outbursts. He basically drew up a whole profile, the bitter stepson, full of resentment, maybe angry enough to burn the place down. He left out the part where I never stepped foot inside the house. Left out the fact that I called 12 times trying to reach my mom. Didn't mention a single one of those things. And Mom, she didn't say a word to set the record straight. She didn't speak up. Didn't say, that's not who Jake is. Didn't even bother correcting the lie. She just let it stand. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay on Dad's couch, staring at the ceiling. The Bulls game was playing again, low volume like always. Same couch, same room, but everything felt different. It wasn't peaceful anymore. It felt like something had shifted, something ugly. Not because I felt guilty, but because I already knew what was coming. The whispers, the looks, the way people would start tilting their heads and thinking, maybe it's true. Maybe he did it. Funny how it wasn't the fire that broke me. Wasn't the cops showing up like I was already guilty. Wasn't even Stan pointing the finger. It was her silence. That hollow, echoing silence. That was the moment everything clicked into place, like a puzzle I didn't want to finish. Stan was trying to erase me. And my mom. She didn't lift a finger to stop him. She just let it happen. The call came sometime after midnight. I was lying on Dad's couch, headphones in, screen glowing in the dark. Some random video playing. I wasn't watching it. I wasn't really doing anything, just trying to quiet the noise in my head. When the screen lit up with Mom, my whole body tensed. For half a second, I thought maybe this was the moment she'd finally act like my mom again. Say she was sorry. Say it was all a mistake. Say she didn't know how to handle things, but that she never stopped caring. That she believed me. That she knew I didn't do it. But instead, I hit answer, and she came out swinging. What the hell is wrong with you? Those were her first words. No pause. No softness. Just rage. Pure, pointed rage. I swear to God. Jake, do you even get what we're going through? The house is trashed. The boys are traumatized. I haven't closed my eyes in 2 days. And then I hear you told the police you weren't even home? My voice came out flat. I wasn't. Exactly, she snapped. You bailed. You didn't even knock on the door. You just ran off like some selfish little. She stopped herself before finishing, but I got the message loud and clear. There was a note, I said, trying to stay calm. You taped a note to the front door? Said you were going to the lake house. No call. No text. You didn't ask if I was coming. You just left. There was this moment, just a breath, where I thought she might realize what she'd done. But then her voice came back, sharp and rising. You could have stayed behind. You could have kept an eye on things. But no, you always have to make it about you. Always have to disappear when things get hard. Maybe if you just stopped sulking for once, we wouldn't be in this mess. And just like that, she flipped it. Turned the fire into my fault. Turned her absence into my failure. You're blaming me? I asked, my voice cracking. You're seriously blaming me for this? I'm saying you vanished, she shouted. You live there too. You don't just get to walk away and expect everyone else to deal with the fallout. I didn't walk away, I said quietly. You locked me out. Silence. No apology. No backtrack. Just more air. And then she delivered the final blow, the one that crushed whatever was left of the hope I had. You've always been like this, Jake. Always playing the victim. Always making things worse than they are. You're not a child anymore. Grow up. I don't remember if she hung up first or if I did. Doesn't matter. I sat there, holding the phone like it was something heavy and dangerous. Something that could go off again at any moment. But I didn't cry. Didn't scream. Didn't throw the phone across the room, even though part of me wanted to. I just sat there in the dark, sinking. I didn't move. Didn't cry. Didn't speak. Just sat there, frozen in place. That's what betrayal feels like when it finally sinks all the way in. Not fire, not fury, just cold. Like something quiet creeping into your chest and turning everything to ice. I didn't even hear Dad come out of his room until he was already standing there in the doorway. Sweatpants, old t-shirt, rubbing the back of his neck like he wasn't sure how to walk into whatever this was. That her? He asked gently. I gave a slow nod. She blaming you? Another nod. This time, tighter. He sighed and lowered himself onto the couch beside me. Not close enough to smother, but close enough to feel that someone was there. That I wasn't alone. I should have seen this coming. He murmured, more to the floor than to me. I stared at the blank TV screen across the room. She said I left the house unprotected. That if I'd stayed, the fire wouldn't have happened. He turned to look at me, jaw set. That's absolute bullshit. I blinked at him. You're 15, he said, his voice low but firm. You're not the man of that house. You're not her husband. You're not Stan. You're a kid, Jake. And they left you. They made the choice to go without you. That was the first time anyone had said it like that. No hesitation. No sugarcoating. Just the truth, plain and blunt. They didn't just leave you, he added. They locked you out and made you feel like it was your fault. That's not forgetfulness. That's abandonment. I don't care how she tries to spin it. I couldn't answer. Could barely breathe. My throat burned, but not from crying, from holding too much in. Dad kept going. You're not crazy, you hear me? You're not broken. You're not the reason this happened. And if they try to pin this on you again, if they keep twisting this story to make you the villain, I will deal with it. Personally. I swallowed hard. Try not to let my shoulders shake. He didn't hug me. Didn't make a scene. He just sat there in the dark, next to me, as some mindless video kept auto-playing on the screen. And for the first time in days, I felt okay. Not good. Not better. But okay. Like maybe I wasn't standing on the edge by myself anymore. And in that quiet, something finally clicked. Mom didn't see me as her son anymore. She hadn't for a while. I just hadn't wanted to admit it. I swear to God, Jake, Dad said a few minutes later, his voice low but shaking a little. No one gets to talk to you like that again. Not even her. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees, staring at the floor like he was trying to keep something big from boiling over. She left you, he said, slow and deliberate. She locked the damn door. Didn't check in. Didn't ask if you were okay. Then something terrible happens, something you had nothing to do with, and instead of protecting you, she throws you under the bus. She said I should have stayed to watch the house. I mumbled. Dad snapped upright. You're 15. Then caught himself, took a breath, and said it again, calmer this time. 15. You are not responsible for her house, or her husband, or her new family. He stood up, fists clenched, jaw tight. I could feel the heat radiating off him now, not anger at me, but at everything they'd done. And maybe, finally, I wasn't the only one carrying it anymore. She backed him up, didn't she? Dad asked, even though he already knew the answer. She didn't say anything, I said. She let Stan tell the cops I was angry, that I had a temper, that I might have done it. Dad's jaw tightened, his whole face stiffening. But the fire department, they ruled it accidental, right? I nodded. Yeah, something shorted out behind the dryer. Bad wiring, maybe a faulty outlet. No signs of anyone breaking in. Nothing suspicious. And even with that, he said slowly, she still had the nerve to point the finger at you. She said I abandoned the house. That if I really cared about the family, I would have stayed. Watch the place. Dad looked like he was 2 seconds away from punching a hole in the wall. She left you, Jake. She left you alone. You're a kid. She and Stan took off for some spontaneous vacation without even checking in. And now she wants to act like you're the one who let everyone down. He took a deep breath, then another, like he was physically holding himself back. Then he looked at me, direct and serious. That's enough. I'm done letting this slide. He sat down again, rubbing his hands like he was winding himself up for something bigger. I should have done this a long time ago, he said. But I kept telling myself not to stir the pot. I didn't want to make your life harder. I gave her every chance to be decent. But she made her choice. I looked at him. What are you saying? I'm filing for full custody, he said. I'm calling the lawyer first thing in the morning. I don't care what your mom says, and I sure as hell don't care what Stan tries to spin. You're not going back there. I blinked at him, stunned. You mean it? More than anything, he said. I let a lot of things go. I bit my tongue when she started pulling away. I stayed quiet when that guy moved in and acted like he owned the place. But accusing you of arson? Calling the police on her own kid? That's not just bad parenting. That's betrayal. I hadn't even realized I was holding my breath until it came out. A long, shaky exhale that left my chest hollow. I'm going to keep you safe, he said. Not just from what they did, but from how they made you feel. No more walking on eggshells. No more pretending everything's fine when it's not. Then he stood up, walked over, and placed a hand on my shoulder. You're home now, and no one's taking that from you. Dad wasn't just talking. He meant it. The very next morning, we were sitting across from a lawyer. Her name was Denise, sharp suit, sharper eyes, and a tone that didn't waste words. Dad told her everything. The way I was left behind. The false accusations. The fire report proving it was just faulty wiring. No foul play, no suspicious activity. And then he said it, clearly and without hesitation. I want full custody. My son's not going back there. Denise turned to me. Jake, are you afraid to return to your mother's home? Yes, I said. Simple as that. That was enough. She nodded and started the paperwork right then. Filed for an emergency hearing. It was set for the following week. At home, Dad turned into a machine, focused, steady, all in. He didn't bring up Mom or Stan anymore. Didn't rant or rehash. He just made sure I ate. Made sure I slept. Checked in often, but quietly. There was space to breathe, and somehow, the silence in his apartment didn't feel cold anymore. It felt like safety. I didn't expect to hear from Mom. And of course I didn't. But Stan? Yeah, he made his move. It was Friday night. Dad and I were stretched out on the couch, half watching something forgettable on TV. The room was quiet, just the hum of the screen and the occasional rustle of a snack bag. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. The message lit up on the screen. It wasn't you. I know that. He's lying. I sat up straighter. Who is this? I texted back. Tyler. My stepbrother. The youngest one. The quiet one who barely spoke. Always just nodded and kept his eyes down. What he sent next almost made me drop the phone. Screenshots. A folder titled, Jake Behavioral Profile. Inside were pages of fake reports, files filled with lies. Claims about violent behavior. Made-up school incidents. A phony diagnosis of some mental disorder I'd never heard of. All of it looked official, like it belonged in a case file somewhere. Then there was a voice memo. I tapped play. It was Stan's voice, clear as day. If this goes south, I'll just use the file. No one's going to believe a kid who's been unstable, especially not one we left behind. Hell, even his mom doesn't question it. I looked over at Dad. He took the phone, listened to the memo once, then stood up without a word, walked to his desk, started printing everything. This is going to Denise first thing in the morning, he said. This isn't just manipulation anymore. This was premeditated. A few seconds later, Tyler sent one more message. I don't feel safe here, but I couldn't let him do this to you. That was it. That was the moment everything snapped into focus. The moment the fog cleared. I wasn't imagining things. I wasn't being dramatic. This wasn't some emotional misunderstanding or a family miscommunication. This was a setup. And now, we had proof. Court isn't like on TV. There's no dramatic music, no yelling across the room. It's quiet, but not a peaceful quiet. More like the kind that makes your skin itch. Every shuffle of paper sounds like a gunshot. Every cough or sigh echoes through the room. And your heartbeat? It's loud enough to hear in your ears. We got to the courthouse early. Too early. Denise met us in a side room. Laid everything out again. The fake documents, the texts, the voice memo from Stan. She was calm. Deadly calm. Like someone who'd been through this before. Like she already knew how this was going to end, and just needed the judge to catch up. This is strong, Denise said, flipping through the pages one last time. But just remember, family court isn't always logical. Don't expect fireworks or big speeches. Just stay calm, answer what's asked, and let me handle the rest. I nodded, wiping my sweaty palms on my jeans. Then they called us in. Forget what you've seen on TV. There were no soaring ceilings or pounding gavels. No lawyers shouting objection. Just a tired judge in half-slipped glasses, a worn-out rug that didn't match the gray walls, and the kind of silence that makes you want to swallow your own voice. Mom sat across from us, stone-faced, not even a flicker of emotion. Stan didn't show. Said he wasn't a legal guardian. Coward. Denise stood up and laid it all out like a seasoned pro. She told the story from beginning to end, how I was left behind without warning, how the fire was blamed on me before anyone knew the cause. And then she hit the real punch. The fake behavioral file. The forged reports. The voice memo. Stan practically admitting the whole thing was a backup plan in case things went south. The judge didn't say much. She just sat there quietly, pen tapping against her notes. Then she turned her gaze to Mom. And for the first time in longer than I could remember, I saw her squirm. Did you know about this file? The judge asked plainly. Mom looked down, avoiding eye contact. No, I didn't create it. That's not what I asked. I didn't ask for it to be made, she added weakly. But you didn't challenge it, either, Denise cut in. Her voice was calm, but sharp enough to slice glass. You let your husband tell the police your child, might have committed arson. And even after the fire department cleared him, you stood by and said nothing. You let that lie live. Mom didn't answer. She just sat there, eyes blank, mouth tight. Didn't argue. Didn't defend. Didn't care. The judge sighed and scribbled something on her pad. Then she turned to me. Jake, she said, do you feel safe in your mother's home? I didn't even hesitate. No, I said. Not with Stan there. And not with her letting him lie for her. That landed. You could feel the shift in the room, the way the weight finally fell. The judge didn't take long. She straightened her glasses, looked us both over, and gave her ruling without ceremony. Until a full custody evaluation can be completed, I'm granting temporary full custody to the father. Effective immediately. The mother is to have no unsupervised contact with the minor. Mr. Bennett, she glanced at Dad. You may proceed with the petition for permanent custody. Mom didn't flinch, didn't argue. She just gave this tiny, tired nod, like she'd seen it coming all along and didn't have the energy to pretend anymore. Outside the courtroom, Dad let out a breath like he'd been holding it since we walked in. That's step one, he said quietly. I looked up at him. What's step two? He didn't hesitate. We make sure this never happens again. We never heard from her. No call. No text. No apology. Nothing. After the court hearing, it was like Mom disappeared, like she just peeled herself out of my life and didn't look back. And it wasn't because she wasn't allowed. The judge had made it clear, no unsupervised contact. But supervised didn't mean impossible. She could have written something, left a voicemail, anything. But she didn't. Not even to pretend. Not even to lie and act like she cared. For the first couple of days, I kept watching my phone. Too much. Way more than I want to admit. Some stubborn part of me, some quiet corner I hadn't shut off yet, still wanted her to fight for me. Not legally, not with paperwork, just with words, with something human. I wanted her to say I mattered, that she missed me, that I hadn't been so easy to forget. But the silence stayed. Thick, cold, final. And in that silence, something finally clicked. She didn't just fail me. She didn't even want to try. It wasn't just that she didn't protect me. It was that she chose not to. Dad noticed. One evening, I was in the kitchen, staring at my phone again like it might eventually say something different. He came in, leaned on the counter, and said, "You're not going to hear from her." I didn't answer. She would have reached out by now if she wanted to, he added. But she didn't. She made her decision. She picked her side. I know, I said, and I meant it. But that didn't make it hurt less. Because there's this moment you hit, and anyone who's ever been betrayed by someone they love will know it, where the truth finally catches up to you. They were never who you thought they were. She wasn't a good mom making mistakes. She wasn't someone struggling who just got in over her head. She was someone who wanted a new life. And I didn't fit into the picture. A week later, Dad and I had to go back to the house. There were papers to pick up. A few of my things still boxed up in the garage. We planned it carefully, made sure Stan and Mom wouldn't be there. Dad coordinated with Denise so we wouldn't run into anyone accidentally. Even so, walking up to that house felt like stepping into someone else's story. The porch light was still flickering, same as it always had. It had blinked like that for years, and nobody ever bothered to fix it. The wind chimes that used to hang by the door, the ones Mom loved, were gone. Probably boxed away or tossed out. I stood there for a second, just staring at the door like it might open by itself and let me in. "You okay?" Dad asked gently. I nodded. But the truth? I wasn't okay. Not even close. We stepped inside the house, and the smell hit me right away, a weird mix of smoke and fresh paint. Like someone tried to patch over something broken instead of fixing it. A cover-up, not a clean slate. Neither of us said much. We got what we came for, papers, a few boxes of my things, and we turned to leave. Simple, efficient, numb. But just as I was walking out, something stopped me. There on the mantel, in the exact spot where our old family photo used to sit, the one with me, Mom, and Dad from back when I was 10, there was a new picture. Tyler and Liam. Just them. No trace of me. Like I was never there. Like I'd never been part of that family to begin with. That night, I cried. Harder than I had in a while. But after the tears dried, I just sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the wall. And something settled in. Not peace, not closure, but something still. A quiet understanding. She had erased me. So I let go of the version of her I'd been holding on to. The one who might someday fight for me. The one who never really existed. After the hearing, Dad didn't just bring me back to his apartment. He brought me home. And he made space for me. Real space. First thing he did was clear out his office. "It's yours now," he said. Simple. No big gesture. No conditions. He didn't ask if I wanted it. He just knew. He saw it. How much I needed a room that was actually mine. We painted the walls together. Picked out furniture that didn't look like it came from a storage closet. He let me choose the bedding, the lamp, even the rug. He installed a lock on the door because I asked. Didn't question it. Just did it. And that first night sleeping there? No nightmares. First time in months. But he didn't stop there. He got me transferred to a new school, one closer to his place. Told me there was no reason to stay tied to a district that had already done its damage. He handled everything. The forms, the meetings, the logistics. He just said, "You focus on the next step." So I did. I started thinking bigger. I applied to college. Not just any college, but the college. The one I'd dreamed about for years. Out of state. Far enough to feel like a new beginning. Close enough that I wasn't running away, just moving forward. I didn't tell Mom. Not because I forgot. Because she never asked. No text. No email. No message asking where I was, how school was going, what I planned next. It was like I'd been wiped clean from her memory. She didn't just let me go. She deleted me. Then one afternoon, it came, the envelope. Thick. Official. Heavy. I opened it slowly, hands shaking. Read the first line 3 times before it really landed. "We are pleased to inform you." I was in. Dad saw me frozen in the kitchen, holding the letter like it might vanish. He didn't ask what it said. He just walked over, read it over my shoulder, and put a steady hand on my back. "You earned that," he said. "I'm proud of you." Then, Like it was no big deal, he added. I've been saving since you were in kindergarten. We've got it covered. I didn't know what to say, so I just nodded. The tears didn't come until later, after Dad had left, after the room went quiet. I sat on my new bed, in my own room, in a place where, for the first time in a long time, I felt wanted. It hit me all at once. The stillness, the safety, the fact that I wasn't just tolerated, I was chosen. And I cried. Not out of sadness, just release. A few weeks before the move, Dad helped me pack. He rented the van, loaded the boxes himself, went down the checklist like he was prepping for a NASA launch. He didn't make a speech when we pulled up to the dorm, didn't get misty-eyed or try to make it a hallmark moment. He just looked me in the eye and said, "If you need anything, doesn't matter what time, you call me." Got it. I got it, I said. Right before he left, he handed me a small, folded envelope. I didn't open it until later. Found it stuffed between notebooks in my backpack. Inside was a short, handwritten note. "You always belong somewhere. I'm just glad I could finally give you the space to get there." 2 years went by. Silence. Not a word from her. No calls. No emails. No half-hearted, "How have you been?" messages. It was like I had never existed. But it didn't hurt the way it used to. By then, I'd stopped expecting anything from her. Dad and I stayed close. He'd visit on holidays, show up for birthdays, help me move out of the dorm during breaks. Sent me the same text every finals week. "Don't forget to eat real food." He showed up. Always. And that spring, as I was finishing up finals and thinking about summer plans, he came to visit. We were in my dorm, sitting on opposite beds, when I noticed something different in his face. He had that look. The one he only wore when he had to say something big. He didn't ease into it. "Stands under investigation," he said. "Real estate fraud, money laundering, fake shell companies, the whole mess. It's bad." I sat up straighter. "Wait, what? How do you know?" "My lawyer's involved in part of it." She recognized the name and gave me a heads up. "Since, technically, he's still your ex-stepfather." My heart started to pound. "Is he in jail?" "Not yet," Dad said. "But there's a warrant. They've been building the case for months." He tried to skip town. But before that, he made a move. He leaned forward, voice low. "He pressured your mom to sign over the lake house. The one she inherited from her parents. Used every trick in the book. Charm, guilt, threats." I clenched my jaw. "Why that house?" "Because it's worth a lot," he said. And at this point, it wasn't just about cash. He was trying to move assets fast. Probably needed to settle debts. Maybe buy time. Or maybe just run. My stomach turned. Did she give it to him? "No," Dad said. "She stalled him. Dragged it out. Told him she wasn't ready to sign anything." That's when he snapped. I leaned forward, listening. "He got nasty," Dad continued. "Started calling her weak. Said she was just like you. Ungrateful, difficult, impossible to reason with." That landed harder than I expected. Hearing my name come out of Stan's mouth, even secondhand, still felt like poison. He told her she'd wasted his time, Dad said. That he gave her years and got nothing in return. Said she was dead weight. And then, he disappeared. Took a bag, maybe some cash, possibly fake ID, who knows. Lawyers think he bolted to avoid charges. No trace since. I didn't say anything. Just sat there, letting it all sink in. "Your mom never reported it," Dad added after a while. "Didn't want to deal with it, I guess. But from what I've heard, she's unraveling. Their relationship was already falling apart. This just finished the job." I didn't ask how she was holding up. Didn't ask if she'd mentioned me. I didn't need to. Because by then, something had settled in me. A truth I didn't have to keep questioning. Stan hadn't just tried to run a household. He'd tried to erase anything that didn't play by his rules. And Mom, she stood beside him while he did it. Until he turned on her too. "She protected the house," I said quietly. "Yeah," Dad replied. "She did. Just not her son." He didn't say anything to that. Didn't need to. It happened on a Tuesday. I was back at school after summer break, settling into my dorm, unpacking the last of my boxes. I was midway through folding laundry when my phone buzzed. I glanced down, not expecting much. And then I saw it. A message. From a number I hadn't seen in over 2 years. "Jake, I know I have no right to reach out, but I wanted to say I'm sorry." I stared at the screen. No panic. No surge of emotion. Just stillness. She sent another message a few minutes later. I didn't know how to fix things. After he left, I've been trying to make sense of everything. I know I failed you. I know I chose him. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to hear it. She never said his name. Just he. Like Stan was some shadow she wanted to forget. A bad dream that left ashes behind. I didn't reply. Not right away. Later that week, I told Dad. We were eating pizza on the couch, the TV on in the background, same as always. He didn't even blink. What did she say? That she's sorry. He nodded slowly. Do you believe her? I paused and really thought about it. I think she's sorry now, I told Dad, but I don't think it's about what she did to me. I think she's sorry because her life fell apart. He nodded, calm as ever. You know you don't owe her anything, right? Yeah, I said, and I meant it. But she didn't stop. A week later, another message. This time an email. Longer. Wordier. She talked about Stan, how he'd changed, how she was scared, how she'd convinced herself that staying quiet was the same as keeping things together. She said she thought she was protecting me. Said she thought silence was strength. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you by trying to keep everything calm, she wrote. I see it now. I know I failed you. It read more like a confession than an apology. But it didn't erase the fact that when the police turned their questions on me, she said nothing. When Stan spun his lies, she let them sit. And when I left, when I disappeared from her home and her orbit and her family, she let me stay gone. Not a whisper for 2 full years. Now that the foundation had crumbled, now she remembered me, I didn't feel anger, didn't feel pity. What I felt was colder, cleaner, like a door closing. Because by then, I had rebuilt from scratch. I had stitched myself together without her voice in my ear. I had found peace in places she never looked. I had become someone solid, not because she helped, but because she didn't. I didn't need to hate her. I didn't need to forgive her either. She simply wasn't part of the story anymore. Still, I wrote back. Just one reply. I hope you find what you're looking for. But I've already found my peace. Then I powered down my phone, stepped outside, and took a walk. The air was cool. The city was quiet. And for the first time in years, my breath felt easy. The last semester went by in a blink. There were no meltdowns. No anxiety humming beneath my ribs. Just school. Work. People who knew me as me. Not as a problem. Not as a warning sign. Not as a ghost in someone else's house. Graduation came. Dad was there, standing in the back of the crowd, clapping like he always believed I'd get here. And finally, the world caught up with him. Afterward, he handed me a small envelope. No speech, no fuss. Inside was a single key. To the condo, he said. It's not big, but it's yours if you want it. I'm moving in with Carol, so figured you could use a place to start something new. I didn't say anything at first, because what do you say when someone gives you what you didn't even know how to ask for? He didn't give me a gift. He gave me space. The kind you build a future in. I moved in a week later. Nothing fancy. Small kitchen. Street parking. The kind of place where the fridge hums too loud and the faucet drips unless you twist it just right. But it was mine. I unpacked slowly. Bought a second-hand couch. Overcooked pasta more times than I'll admit. Hung prints on the walls. Not because they matched, but because they felt like home. And each night, I'd turn off the lights, lock the door, and lie in bed in the quiet. And feel safe. Not watched. Not measured. Not erased. Safe. Stan disappeared the way men like him always do. No big explosion. Just silence. The case dragged on. People said he might be overseas. Somewhere far, somewhere shady. Eventually, folks stopped asking. He became a rumor. A shadow. The kind of man you stop chasing because all that's left is damage, and it's already done. A year after graduation, a letter came. Her handwriting on the front. I didn't open it. Not because I was angry, but because I didn't need anything inside it to move forward. Some doors don't need to be slammed shut. Some just stay closed. I already knew what that letter held. Explanations, maybe. Regrets, for sure. And yeah, there might have even been some form of love in there, too. But love that only shows up after the damage is done? That ain't love. That's just guilt, dressed up in a costume, trying to pass for something it's not. So let me lay it out for you, plain and simple. I never got the apology I kept hoping for. I didn't receive the closure I thought I needed to move on. But I ended up with something even better. I got out. I walked away and started building a life that didn't require me to constantly prove I was worthy of having one. And if you're reading this, if you're sitting in a house that feels more like a prison than a home, wondering if love is supposed to feel like silence or blame or constantly making yourself smaller, then hear me when I say this. You are not too much. You are not impossible to love. And you are not crazy for wanting something better. Sometimes, the folks who are supposed to protect us are the very first to vanish when things get hard. But their silence? That's not on you. It doesn't mean you did something wrong. It just means it's time to stop waiting around for them to say the things you've been aching to hear. I'm 23 now. I still flinch when someone raises their voice too quick. I still get uneasy around people who smile too wide, too soon. And yeah, there are nights I lie in the dark and wonder if she ever truly saw me, the real me. But most nights, I sleep. And let me tell you, that's something I no longer take for granted. Not one bit. If I've learned anything through all this, it's this right here. You don't need anyone's permission to protect your peace. Family isn't just the people you share blood with. Family is who stays. It's the ones who show up, especially when things get ugly. It's the people who look at you when you're falling apart and say, you still matter. You're still worth it. So don't judge your worth based on who left you behind. Measure it by the ones who stood up for you, and by how fiercely you stood up for yourself when nobody else did. You'll make it through. And then one day, without even realizing it, you'll stop surviving, and you'll start living. And when that moment comes, you won't waste time looking over your shoulder. You'll just exhale. And for the first time in a long time, you'll feel free.